All right, welcome to Austin. It is a great pleasure to be here today to talk to you about one of the most important things any company, any organization will ever have to deal with in their existence, and that's people. People is what drives our organizations, it's what drives the results of our organizations and companies, but most importantly, it is what is at the core and the essence of why we exist as businesses. We've heard of words such as automations. We've heard of words of outsourcing and globalization. But let me tell you what's certain. What's certain is that people will never go away because we will never stop having babies. The challenge, however, is how do we engage people? How do we keep them engaged? And how do we make them feel more than just as an employee ID number, but make them feel like they're a part of an organic asset within your framework? And I tell you, it has to deal with holistic talent management. So today we're going to cover a variety of different things. We're going to talk about challenges. We're going to talk about strategies. We're going to talk about lessons learned. And we're going to talk about leveraging technology. In the city of Houston, we were challenged for many, many years on how to get this right. We know we had a workforce of over 22,000 employees, ranging from doctors to kennel attendants or animal care technicians, and those out there in the hot sun, in the Houston hot sun, cutting grass in our green space areas and parks and recreations. And we know and knew then that, guess what? We had a problem. And unlike the space shuttle, we had to identify that that problem is within our own reach. But also with that, the solution. And so as I kind of take the journey with you, I thank you for being present today, being active, and certainly being engaged. So I always kind of start off this presentation with these kind of pictures, one showing a thesis and the other one showing the antithesis. And as you can see from the very last slide, there's Barney, and Barney's gone to jail. He's gone to jail because, you know what? He didn't got it right. He didn't do it right. And because he didn't do it right, guess what? Our organizations fail. It's joy and pain in this thing. And I tell you what, it's fire and ice as well. But when you begin to really to look at your organization structure, your organization's culture, and determine that there's no way around this, then guess what? The writing is no longer on the wall. It's right in your face. And so I will challenge you today to see the pros and the better pros in this, because there's really no cons in getting it right. There's only the advantage of energizing your workforce, creating an environment for which your workforce can thrive in, and ultimately driving your return on investment, increasing those profit margins, and ensuring that you have a culture where people want to stay and grow. So why is managing performance culture dangerous? Well, look at my buddy Kevin Spacey on the screen there. Supervisors and managers dread receiving emails or phone calls from the HR department about employees' performance appraisal that are due, and the question on the table is, but why? The but in the question itself connotes something deeper because it's a transitional word. So we're going to talk about the why behind it. And here are some common reasons. And as you can see the screen kind of laying out the reasons, ultimately, what we find is that people really just don't want to do it because it's difficult to do. The natural thing in talking and conversing and sharing becomes now the Goliath of their day, because it's easy to tell anybody in the organization that they're doing a wonderful job. Hey, high five. Hey, you're doing a fantastic job. But when it comes to identifying when the problems exist and how we need to mitigate that, by professional learning, professional coaching, then guess what? We get a dead stare. And people are left not feeling fulfilled on their jobs. In fact, more importantly, and sadly enough, people contrite. They leave. They acquiesce. And that's what we're trying to do to change the deal. So here's our reality. And you know, I know we got a lot of optimistic people in the room, and they say that, you know, I'm always positive and I'm greatly, profoundly known in my organization as being the guy that or gal that lifts up people. But guess what? If you look at the board on your screen, the very first thing you're going to tell me is that and I will give you a rousing round of applause for that. However, what we see here is that an employee comes to work every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on Saturday, and the first thing we recognize is what they do wrong. So in the world where we know that it's innate for us to identify the things that a person does wrong versus the things that do right, then it's counterintuitive for us. We have to do something different to change that. And it starts with the paradigm shift. If you shift your beliefs, you change your thoughts, you change your thoughts, you change your feelings, and if you change your feelings, guess what? Your actions will change as well. So that's where it starts. Holistic talent management looks at people, looks at application, and looks at process, and it looks at culture. And what you see on the screen are the three, I would say, within the city of Houston, the mayor's 5 priorities. We designed our performance management culture around the priorities of our organizations. So once you look at your strategy, your strategic plan, then you need to wrap that around the people, the processes, the applications, as well as the culture. Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is make sure that people know what they need to do to be successful. I don't know if you're a manager in this room and you say, you know what, I wake up every morning and I want to show my employees how they cannot be successful. Sadly enough, there are many managers out there that do. Processes have to be valid. They have to be reliable. They have to be consistent across your organization. The moment the employee sees that there's a level of inconsistency, you're a failure. And ultimately, you will crumble the culture around performance, and people will look at it as a perfunctory role or task as opposed to something that's actually driving and engaging your culture, your performance culture. Application. I can't tell you. You got to have an application. You cannot do this thing on triplicate forms using dot matrix printers. You can't use a Word form or a PDF, Adobe interactive document. You got to have something solid. In the city of Houston, we chose Saba as our solution of choice. And we've been using it now for almost a year, and we're very excited about that. What is it doing for us? People, application, process is driving culture. We got a culture that's value added. We got people who are understanding for the very first time why they exist in the city of Houston. Why the person that's sitting out there in 120-degree, at least field weather, cutting grass, saying, you know what, I don't cut grass in the city of Houston. I actually manicure green space so that families can go out and have a great time in our park and recreational areas. That's a major shift in paradigm. And ultimately, guess what? It's driving our ROI. And we all know what that is, right? Return on income? No, investment. Vision, goals. You got to have a vision. You got to have goals, guys. We know that in our process, we want to make certain that we had very specific things that will outline tasks and responsibilities, opportunities for employees to learn, and keep the focus on employee development and enculturating a process within our fabric of our organization that will drive conversation and ultimately results. We divided them up in 3 sections, and we had to keep it simple. We did not want to make this thing complicated. People don't like complexity. People like simplicity. So if we can make it simple, then guess what? People will buy into it. The adoption rate is off the roof, and people are getting into that application. They're using the process, and guess what? We're building culture. So we have 3 parts: SMART goals, behavior factors, and work progress meetings. Our SMART goals identify what we want them to do. The behavior factors identify how we want them to do it, and our progress meetings tell them this is what you're doing across the journey. Wow, isn't that powerful? Everybody wants to have a check-in. Everybody wants to know how I'm doing on the first quarter in sales. They want to know how am I performing on my job, and do you like it or not? I mean, I don't care where you are in the organization, whether you're in the C-suite or the B-suite. The idea is that everybody wants to know. We need to encourage that. SMART goals, what are they? They are specific, measurable, attainable, result-oriented, timely, time-bound, and relevant goals that are very specific in nature. And guess what? We don't want 25 SMART goals to measure employees' performance. You can have no more than 4 in the city of Houston. We have to identify the high priorities while not negating the necessity to ensure up that you're still doing the rest of your work well. Behavior factors. Guys, I can't tell you. How somebody does the work is just as important as what they do. If we got a side loader picking up trash, and guess what? I tell you one thing, if you go 2 weeks without your trash being picked up, you're going to be a sad puppy, because your garage is going to stink and you're going to have stuff crawling everywhere, usually stuff that you don't want to see crawling. But if we got a side loader out there running over dogs and cats, and they clear the routes, but they're running over everything in sight, how they're doing it is not effective. We have to measure. So what are the analytical skills, communication skills, judgment, problem solving, teamwork, and safety and security? What are those things that will drive the competencies within that person so that they can see that this is where I am and this is where I can be? The work plan session, I can't tell you, is more important than anything else. Because I can have it all written down on paper. I can have it in my application. But guess what? If I don't communicate it to the employee, then they live their life in a spirit of ambiguity. Definition without delegation leads to abdication, and people will abdicate their roles and responsibilities if it's not clearly defined. We require all managers and supervisors to meet with all of their employees. And that meeting has to be at a minimum of 20 minutes. You cannot call everybody in a roll call session like you're the sergeant in the police department. Now everybody know their duties, go forth and be prosperous. That's not going to happen. People need to have that one-on-one interaction. Our work progress meetings are very important, and our rating scales are out the roof because guess what? Usually most people start off with how a person performs at the lowest rating. In the city of Houston, we've established a culture where we look at what meets the expectations for that particular goal or behavior factor, and then we work our way up. We want to show the employees what the roadmap of success looks like, and guess what? And if it's smart, they can attain it. It's not something that's arduous where we want them to climb Mount Everest in 35 minutes. But it's something that we can do to ensure that, guess what? They can see the success right before them. They can see how it works. And we can have crucial conversations at the table with our employees when they fall on the other side of the meets expectations. And that's what the most paramount thing is about having a holistic talent management system. And of course, if you look at the screen, we just don't write out cut grass. We don't say pick up trash. We don't say go out there and write tickets. We actually identify what the criteria is for each of those measures within the criterions. 5, which means exceeds expectation, exceptional. 4, which is exceeds expectation. 3, which is meets expectations. 2, which is below expectations. And 1, it's a unique thing. It's not unsatisfactory. It needs improvement. And we identify. So an employee comes into their workplace and they say, you know what? Thank you for giving me the menu. I now will make the conscious decision to select which of these scores I want to make. The onus is on them and the responsibility is on us. So we went back and forth when we were developing our system. We said, you know what, we got 2 sections. We got SMART goals, we got behavior factors. In other languages, or lexicons, they may call it competencies. So what we said, guess what? We're going to do 50-50. What you do is just as important as how you do it. We're going to divvy it up 50-50. We're not going to use any complex algorithms to try to compute your evaluation score. Simple. Add them all up, divide them by the sections, and there you go. You got your final score. And so what we find, guys, is that when we're taking this journey, we want to make sure that we had it available to everybody. And in its availability, you can see on the website URL that houstontx.gov/here.html is available to you. We've been out to the city of Los Angeles. We've changed the city of Los Angeles culture because guess what? They saw what we're doing in the city of Houston, and they said, you know what? We want to adopt it. In fact, I had the proud and humble pleasure of coining their holistic talent management system, and we called it CLEAR. We call ours in the city of Houston HERE, which is based on the fact that I hear you, you hear me, we hear each other. Let's make one happy family, not to try to rhyme on purpose. But the idea is that when there is a cognitive response to someone hearing you, 9 out of 10 times you'll get what you want. In fact, you probably get a little bit more of what you want. So what's the benefits? Guess what? The city sees this as an investment. The employee sees that the city's invested in them. There are better relationships with the managers. They know what success looked like. They are proud of their contributions. Imagine going home every day and your spouse reams you out every day. You're going to be a sad person. But imagine if your spouse is very excited about you coming home and your girlfriend or significant other, you feel really good. And if you're a guy, you're going to grill something. You may want to take the kids out to the ballpark. I mean, it just changes the dynamic. Also, people say, I feel more positive about our city culture. They see that this is a win for me, and this is a win for you. And if we got a win in the win, We coin that affectionately a win-win. When you have the roadmap, you can drive benefits, and that benefits translates to value. And we saw over a 280% ROI in our cities, 2 years of implementing this new process, this holistic approach, people, application, process, and culture. We saw that we had lower turnover. Let me tell you something about turnover, guys. There's no stranger in this room about turnover. There's nothing enigmatic about turnover. Turnover costs you 150% times that person's salary. So if you love them, you lose them, guess what? You're also losing revenue. Ramping somebody up. To bring an executive over from another city, another tops off at $35,000 just for relocation fees. A person that's making $50,000, the cost to turn that employee over is $75,000. And this is based on a Harvard study. So either you're going to love your people or you're going to lose your people. And if you lose your people, then guess what? You know the answer to that. So competencies and having a strategy in place is important. We had to identify that. We know that in order for us to be successful, we had to make sure we bring all the right pieces in the right places for the right reasons for the right way, in the right way. We know that there's a tripartite for success. Again, as I mentioned, people, application, process is what drives performance. If you focus too heavily on the people and negate the fact that you need to have an application, there's a problem. If you got people and you got a great application, but there's no processes that are consistent, reliable, and valid, you got a problem. So these parts are integral and interdependent, and if they're not making the connection, then unfortunately, you're not going to be successful, or at least not completely successful. So I present to you today, as I have come very passionately about this topic, very, very driven in terms of engagement, ROI, and ensuring that ultimately at the end of the day, like in the city of Los Angeles, they say that we can see clearly now. The employees can see clear. The city of Los Angeles employee assessment and review, because now we have a process, we have application, we got people on board, and we're building a culture. However, in the city of Houston, we say we can hear you, and we can hear you the right way. Thank you.